Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
There's a documentary that came out on Netflix earlier this year called Take Care of Maya. And I watched it, and at the time I was disturbed by it. But it had a cliffhanger because the people in the story had filed a lawsuit, and they talked about the lawsuit in the documentary, and they said, well, the trial's coming up, but the trial keeps getting delayed, and that's the end of the series. And you wonder, whatever happened to Maya from the documentary, Take Care of Maya? Well, it turns out that the lawsuit ended with a jury verdict of $251 million in the favor of the family who sued the hospital. So Take Care of Maya jury finds Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital liable, awards damages in $200 million case. This is from Fox 13 News, but widely reported. After 8 weeks of trial, jurors returned a verdict in the case. And of course, the case is the one that's at the center of the Netflix documentary, Take Care of Maya. On Tuesday, lawyers on both sides closed the case with their arguments, and the judge handed over the case to the jury. And there were 4 women and 2 men on the jury who deliberated. So a jury of 6, which is quite common in a civil case. After 2 days, jury came back with a verdict, found the hospital liable for all 7 counts or claims that were levied against it. And the jury was given 80 pages of instructions. 80 pages of instructions. 7 claims included false imprisonment, battery, medical negligence, fraudulent billing, survivor claim for intentional infliction of emotional distress, wrongful death claim for the intentional infliction of emotional distress, and Maya Kowalski's claim for infliction of emotional distress. The jury ruled in favor of the family. And so the family will receive in compensatory damages $211 million. Jury decided that the family would also receive an additional $50 million in damages, punitive-wise, adding up to $261 million. I said 251, it's 261. And so Maya spoke with the TV station for the first time since the trial had started. She was adamant that the trial carried far more weight than just a financial payout. She said, to me, it was about the answer. Knowing that my mom was right, I want people to know that she wasn't harming me. So in case you didn't see the story or you have no idea what this is all about, it started when Maya, who was the child of the parents involved here, was brought into the hospital complaining of being in pain. She said she was in pain. And the mother and father were quite aware of the situation she had, but the hospital didn't believe them, basically. So the lawsuit alleges, among other things, that the hospital's actions were so outrageous that they actually caused Maya's mother to commit suicide. And so for 8 weeks, jurors heard from the Kowalskis' doctors, nurses, and experts. And the question, of course, is, number 1, did they treat Maya appropriately? And number 2, were their actions actually something that you point to and say, yeah, that's what caused the mother to do what she did? The Kowalski family says the hospital medically kidnapped Maya and battered her while in its care. And remember, I said the other day, battery is an offensive touching. And so if they do things to you against your will, it can be battery. Now, obviously, there are some kinds of actions that we understand, such as if someone goes into a hospital and needs an appendectomy, okay, to cut someone open and remove their appendix would seem like a kind of painful thing and an offensive touching on some level. But of course, we understand why you're doing it. It's medically necessary, and so that makes complete sense. But here the problem is that the hospital was so convinced that the mother here was Munchausen by proxy, was either encouraging her daughter to pretend to be sick, or was somehow making her daughter sick, or somehow it was all a mental illness on the part of the mother and there's nothing wrong with the child. That's kind of what they were saying here. And so it wound up that after they called like Child Protective Services, that the hospital had possession and control of the daughter. They wouldn't let the daughter see her mother. They'd let her talk on the phone, on a phone call being monitored by somebody else the entire time. And so the question then becomes, if the hospital's wrong, which it turns out they were, according to the jury, what's this all about then? So Maya told jurors her condition would leave her screaming in pain. And she had gone into Johns Hopkins All Children's in October of 2016 while she was experiencing a flare-up of pain from complex regional pain syndrome, CRPS, a disease she was diagnosed with by a doctor, but the doctor was not affiliated with Johns Hopkins. So when they brought her into the emergency room and said, she's got this pain, they said, okay, well, we'll examine her and try to figure out what it's all about. And they said, no, we know what it is. It's called CRPS. And the hospital's like, okay, we know what CRPS is, but let us make that decision for you. Well, she's already been diagnosed with it. And that was part of the frustration that the mother felt, because she's telling the doctors in the emergency room, we know what her illness is. She's been diagnosed, and we know what the solution is. She needs a certain kind of medicine. And then the hospital got very, very suspicious. Why does the mother know so much about this? Seems odd that the mother would know this much. So Maya told jurors her condition would leave her screaming in pain and unable to walk. She explained that the treatments she'd been getting, not at this hospital but elsewhere, had been working, and she was improving until the flare-up in 2016. And so her father said he decided to take her to the emergency room because she had severe stomach ache, and he'd never seen her in that much pain. So while at the hospital, the mother insisted that Maya get a particular kind of treatment, but the hospital staff did not agree. And the mother's persistence alarmed the hospital staff, and they called in a report to the child abuse hotline. They called the child abuse hotline and said, we've got a girl here with her mother, and the girl's in pain, or says she is, and the mom is insisting we treat her a particular way, and we find that very strange. And so they called the child abuse hotline. Now, the hospital's attorney, in his opening statements, noted that several hospital staffers believed that the mother suffered from Munchausen by proxy and that they were trying to protect her. So that's the big issue here. But Maya said that during her 3 months in state custody at the hospital, for 3 months, they said, we're going to hold you here. We're going to take care of you because we don't think your mother and your father are looking out for your best interests. So we're going to take custody of you. And the state allowed this. A judge allowed this. And he allowed it basically because the hospital went into the courtroom and said all of these things about why we think the mother is actually hurting her own child. And it's very, very sad what happened here. And by the way, the money won't bring anybody back. That's just to let you know, someone's going to say that, and it's absolutely true. So she said that staff wouldn't let her go to the bathroom and instead tried to see if she could actually walk. They basically tried to trick her into walking. She said there's a 48-hour period where she was isolated in a hospital room. They left me there for 48 hours under surveillance, which they did not tell me about. So she's being surveilled and she did not know it. They had a commode in there, and they put it just far enough away from my bed so that she'd have to walk to get to it. So I'd have to physically stand up to use it, and I called the nurses when I had to use it because I'm not able to walk. And they thought, well, it's all part of this elaborate act on her part. And they apparently thought, well, she's trying to please her mother. Somehow it pleases her mother when she acts like she's in pain. This whole thing it's a hoax, it's fake, whatever. So I'd urge you to watch the documentary. And I don't normally do this, but, you know, obviously I'm not advertising it. But I remember watching it and being troubled by it and then thinking to myself, I wonder what will happen at trial. Because I've seen documentaries. I've been in documentaries, but I've seen documentaries where the creators of the documentary spun something really, really well one way. And then later on, when you see things outside of the documentary, you go, you know, I think they left some stuff out. I think they left some stuff out. I think they left out some stuff that would have made their case not so strong. So I was curious what's going to happen in this case, because after watching the documentary, which I thought was very well done, I thought, okay, if this is actually a fair rendering of what happened, it's very, very bad for that hospital. But a jury will decide that, and a jury did. So a $261 million verdict appears to indicate that the jury sided with the family against the hospital. As you might guess, I'm assuming an appeal is coming. An appeal will come, and they'll either ask for a new trial, or they'll ask for the verdict to be thrown out, or they'll ask for the verdict to be reduced. And any of those things, or all of those things on some level, let me think, hang on. Reduced and thrown out. I guess reduced to 0, that's being thrown out. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. The point is that this probably isn't the end of the litigation. It probably is not the end of the litigation. But it's an interesting start. Let's put it that way. So as of right now, there is a $261 million judgment against Johns Hopkins Hospital, the all children's hospital down there in Florida. And it appears to be a vindication on some level of Maya, her mother, and her father. So there you go. Thank you, everybody who sent this to me from Fox 13 News staff. Take care of Maya. Jury finds Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital liable and awards the family damages in the amount of $261 million. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. Don't sweat the petty things, and don't pet the sweaty things.